Can you imagine your life where money is your friend, working with you to achieve all your dreams and desires? If you struggle seeing money as your friend, then join Kathy Cook-Noble, financial advisor and educator on understanding how your money can work for you. It is possible. Now, here is Financially Speaking with Kathy Cook-Noble.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Ashlee Quinn-Hogan. I'm going to be your host for this evening. It's great to see everyone. Thank you for tuning in, for those of you watching, and welcome to the new year. We're into the thick of it now. Things are starting to transpire. Hopefully everyone's well on their way to making 2022 a phenomenal year. I know all of us have set lots of resolutions and goals and targets for the new year. And I hope that everyone has been doing a good job of keeping on top of those and, really carrying those in throughout the year with that. But one of the things, we're going to jump right into it today, that I would like to talk about is, and I think it's important to reflect on, is sort of what we learned in 2021. Because 2021 was a pivotal and very important year for a lot of us. And as we can see, a lot of things from 2021 are sort of being carried over into the new year with us. And I think going into new year, we can look back and revisit 2021 and look at all of the lessons that presented themselves to us. And for those friends I have that are also here in Ontario and in Canada, we're seeing a lot of the same kind of thing carrying over into 2022. I know a lot of us didn't want to see that, and a lot of us are super disappointed that 2022 has got off to a supremely rocky start. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can sort of embrace the storm that has fallen upon us, and look for ways to move throughout 2022 in an optimistic and positive way. And that's the most important thing. That's what's going to make 2022 a great year, is sort of embracing the lack of control that we have over the current situation, that seems to just be never ending at this point. And of course, yes, I am talking about the pandemic, among other things. 2021 taught us a lot. And I know a lot of people have said that 2021 sucked, or it wasn't a great year. People just want to forget 2021. I felt as if 2021 flew by. I think a lot of people have that in common with me. The past 2 years, so ever since the beginning of this sort of pandemic, I feel like we've been in fast forward. We've been living life at like 2 times speed or something like that, which is crazy. We want to make the most out of the time that we're given here on this great planet Earth. So, for 2022, let's not let that mush together with 2020 and 2021 as, the proclaimed worst years of a lot of our lives. I don't feel that way. I think that 2020 and 2021, for me anyway, were super transitional and 2 of the greatest years that I've had of my life thus far. So, let's make 2022 a great year. And, if you tuned into the last podcast I recorded, we talked about setting goals for 2022 and sort of, how to go about programming your GPS for success, and doing a life audit and monthly meetings and setting up these really good goals for yourself. Another really good important thing that I like to do sort of at the beginning of every year is reflecting back on the previous year. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is sort of what I learned in 2021. And I learned a lot in 2021, and I want to share some of that knowledge with everyone here. And so I'm going to talk about the 10 top things that I learned in 2021 that I'm going to be carrying with me into the new year, and I'm going to share those with you. And so we're going to jump right into it. The first thing that I learned in 2021, throughout this entirety of the craze and the madness that sort of was bestowed on us as a nation, is that your well-being always comes first. And that's an important lesson that I hope everybody learned. If not in 2021, then hopefully we're learning this year, or we're learning soon, because it's important and it's true. With the pandemic and everything that happened in 2021, it affected a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And, there were health concerns, there were mental health concerns, emotional concerns. People were separated from their families. People didn't get to see their friends. And I think that in that madness, a lot of self-care got lost, and people, started to put themselves into their work. Or they started to feel lost in terms of, well, I can't go to work, but I can't see my friends, and I can't see my family, and I can't do all these activities that I normally do. And so we just kind of existed. And I think that a lot of us forgot that our well-being is always our utmost priority. And so in 2022, one vow that I've made for myself is that my mental health and my well-being as a human being comes before all else. And that was, this is my number one lesson, because it's probably the most important one. I think we've already discovered that 2022 is not going to be a walk in the park. It's not going to be much different than 2021 was in terms of sort of the environment around us. We're experiencing a lot of the same things that we were, but it's up to us to make sure that our individual experiences are different from what they were in 2021. And it's important to be kind to ourselves and to give ourselves some grace too, because living in a pandemic is not easy. And we've been doing it now for a couple of years. So I know a couple of us have got the hang of it, but we know for those of us that are super disappointed by, sort of the lack of progress that we've been making in terms of getting through this, it's important to be careful with yourself, and to just remind yourself that it's okay to, not be as productive, quote unquote productive, as you would like to be, or, it's okay to, spend a day just, doing the bare minimum, if some of you would say, or it's okay to go a couple of days without, checking off all the boxes on your list. It's okay to give yourself a little bit of leniency and a little bit of grace in those situations, and to confide in your friends and family, and be honest with yourself about how you're feeling too, right? And giving yourself the opportunity to sort of go through 2022, making sure that your well-being and your mental health is being prioritized, because I think that was an issue in 2021 and 2020. I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak from, personal experience in the lives of those close to me, that a lot of people forgot that they were their number one supporter, and they were their number one priority. So in 2022, I want to make sure that, I'm carrying that with me, that lesson that we are all, our well-beings are all our priorities. My well-being is my priority, and yours should be yours as well. And sort of I want to talk about the hustle mindset a little bit. I know that living in capitalist society in the 21st century, a lot of us are encouraged, especially us young individuals who are students, and who are balancing being students, but also trying to work and make money and afford houses and things like that, and be financially independent, that there's this mindset that you have to be hustling 24/7. And I know that that's a hard sort of thing to juggle with the demands of everyday life. And, I'm here to say that with sort of this first thing that I learned in 2021 about taking care of yourself, is that the hustle mindset is not a healthy one. And to remember that you don't always have to be grinding 24/7. You don't have to work, 12 hours a day to be successful. So like success looks different to everybody, but it's also important to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And so in 2022, let's make sure that we're prioritizing ourselves and our mental health, and making sure that before anything else that we are okay, and that if we're not, we're using the resources available to us to make sure that we can be. And so that's the first and very most important thing that I learned in 2021. Sort of the second thing, I guess, we'll move right along here into number 2, is the importance of gratitude. I think a lot of us, forget how grateful we ought to be for what we're given. And if there's anything that taught us, about gratitude, it's this pandemic situation that seems to continue to infiltrate our lives, and is going to continue into this year as well, I'm sure of it. But sort of this idea of being grateful for all that we have. And I know a lot of people looked at 2021 and 2020 and we're not super satisfied with the way those things played out, or those years played out. And that's okay too. I mean, not every year is going to be a milestone or a significant one, but I think that we can do our best to make sure that we make our years as meaningful as possible. And I think with the pandemic, I found that there was a lot more to be grateful for that I had simply just not acknowledged prior. And that's something I'm taking into 2022, is this gratitude for the people around me, the world that I live in, sort of the opportunities I've been given, that we sort of take for granted until they're taken away, right? And I think that's one of sort of the positive byproducts of the pandemic, was looking at sort of when you lost a lot of stuff, we lost access to a lot of the luxuries that we had been given in our lives that we had taken for granted. When we lost those things, everyone was kind of like, oh man, I should have, been grateful for the fact that I could, go into the store or meet friends for coffee, or, go to the gym every day, or practice, basketball at the gym every day, or whatever the case is. Those hobbies and those things that we had, we could have taken them for granted. And so going into 2022, I think it's important to remember that we did lose a lot of our social lives at one point. That may be happening again soon, who knows? But we did lose those things. And so let's be grateful for that which we do have. But also the pandemic gave us kind of an opportunity to get in touch with our sort of primitive selves. I think a lot of us, when things shut down, I know a lot of people were going on walks and spending time with their family, and spending time alone and working on, their personal growth, or working on their fitness and things like that at a more individual level, because we weren't allowed to see a lot of people last year, or we weren't supposed to be seeing them anyway, I should say. I'll not comment further on that, but for most of us, I think that we became a lot more grateful for time with ourselves and time with our family and time to work on ourselves. I know I did anyway. I really valued the time that I was given. Not to say I didn't, miss sort of my quote unquote regular life of going places and going to classes and meeting my friends on campus and spending time with, friends outside of school and things like that. But I did also really enjoy the time spent with my close family that I was locked down with, or with myself, and, working on myself and finding ways to improve myself. And I think that gratitude that I carried throughout 2020 and 2021 led to those 2 years to be some of the best years that I've had thus far. And, I'm optimistic that 2022 is going to be even better if I can continue to be grateful for those things. So going into 2022, that's the second most important thing I learned and that I want to share with you, is to just be grateful for what you do have, not to sort of focus on what's being taken away or what we're lacking at this specific point in time, but sort of what we do have to be grateful for, and what we do have to sort of hone in on and carry with us throughout the year, I think is super important, and can make this year so much more enjoyable than if you're just to sort of look at it as a continuation of the pandemic and all of the, remind us of the hardships that we've gone through in the past. So those are the first two things. I'm going to get to more of them after this quick break, but yes, it is time to take a brief break. And when we get back, we will be talking about the remainder of the 10 things that I learned in 2021. I'm Ashlee Quinn-Hogan. I'm your host for this evening, and you're listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. Be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Alrighty, welcome back everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Before we went on break, I started off by talking about two of the most important things I learned in 2021. One being that your well-being always comes first, and second is that practicing gratitude is one of the most amazing things. And I guess one thing I should mention is one way that you can practice gratitude is by keeping a gratitude journal. And that's something I actually started last year. And a good time to do this is either right in the morning when you first wake up or right before you're about to go to bed. I always do it at night before bed because I find that it sort of helps reduce my cortisol levels right before I'm trying to go to bed. To take away all of the stressful thoughts about all the things I have to get done the next day. And sort of replaces them with thoughts of gratefulness and thankfulness for all of the things that occurred throughout the day that I had to be grateful for. And I encourage, if you're listening and you realize that you would like to practice more gratitude in your life, to try using a gratitude journal. And all this has to look like is, keeping a notebook and for that day, just reflecting on everything that happened that day that you can be grateful for. And that could, it could be small, big, it could be seemingly insignificant, or it can be huge. Maybe, you had a phone call with a friend and you realized that individual was a super good support for you and you're really grateful for them. So maybe that's one thing that you add to your list, or maybe you went to Starbucks and someone made you the best coffee that you've ever had. And that's something else to be grateful for. It could be as small, as big as you need. Gratitude journals I really like because when, you are experiencing some negative emotions like stress or anxiety or whatever, common emotions that are, prevalent for many of us, you can revisit these and just remind yourself of everything that you have to be grateful for in your life. So those are the first two things that I learned in 2021. The third thing is sort of reframing your mind in terms of I get to versus I have to. And this was one of the hardest lessons I learned in 2021. I think it's probably going to be the hardest lesson for those of you who have yet to learn it too. is sort of rephrasing the way you look at things. So I know for me, for example, if someone reaches out to me, a family member or a friend and says, oh, what's up today, or, what's on the agenda for today, I automatically say, oh, well, I have to do this and I have to do this, or like, I have to record a podcast, for example, or I have to go grocery shopping, or I have to go to class at 11. I have to. It's an obligation when you say it like that, versus, oh, what are you doing today? Oh, well, I get to record a podcast at noon, and I get to go grocery shopping after that, or I get to go to class in the morning. When you say I get to, it's more of less of an obligation and more of an opportunity. And it may seem like a small, trivial thing, but what I learned in 2021 is that the way that you phrase it can make so much difference in how you feel about it. I find that if I say, I have to do this, it becomes a burden. It's like, oh, I have to do that. That's not really something I want to do when I say I have to do it, but, I get to do that. I get to go, to class and learn all these amazing things and sit alongside some amazing students and people that I enjoy collaborating with. And I get to learn more about the things that, really light me up inside. I get to go to class at 11, right? And so I know I learned this last year, and I made it sort of my mission to try and be as opportunity framed as I could, and say, I don't have to do it. I get to do this. This is an opportunity for me. And I think what it boils down to for me is that it's such a gift to be able to, wake up every day and do what you love to do. And for the most part, a lot of my life I love. So, and I hope that's the same for a lot of you. I hope that you guys wake up and do things that you love every day. And you get to do those things, right? It's not I have to do those things, it's I get to do them. And for me, saying I get to do them just gave me a positive mindset for the rest of the day. And I always felt a lot better after saying that. So yeah, that was the third thing I learned in 2021, is just to, the small ways that you phrase things can make a huge difference in your mood and your behavior throughout the entire day. I guess an important thing to remember is that, people went to bed last night and didn't wake up this morning, and you did. If you're listening to this, you did. So be grateful for that, and don't treat it as an obligation that you have to pick your kids up from school, you have to go to work today, or you have to go spend time with your sister today. It's, I get to do those things. I get to take my kids to school. I get to go spend time with my sister. I get to go, do X, Y, and Z. Treat it as an opportunity, and I promise that, you'll appreciate it a lot more, and you'll be a lot more, grateful for it in the long run. And so that was the third thing I learned in 2021, is sort of how to rephrase the way that I looked at my sort of expectations or opportunities as an individual. I guess the fourth thing that I learned, which is a super important one, is to stop trying to control everything. And I think if, anything has taught us that, it's this experience of the pandemic. And I keep talking about it, but I'm a firm believer that the pandemic has a lot to offer. Yes, there's a lot of negative things that came out of it, but there's a lot of positive that came out of it, at least in my life. And I think if everyone looks hard enough, they can find something positive that came out of the pandemic as well. And for me, it was learning to accept the fact that I cannot control everything. And I think that's an issue for a lot of us. I'm happy to admit it. Maybe not happy, but I'm comfortable admitting that, I like to control things. Maybe I have a little bit of a control problem. I like to control my schedule. I like to control, what I eat, what I do in a day. I like to control my money. I like to control my relationships. I think that's, common for a lot of people. And especially in a world that is so unsure, the things that we can control, we like to control, and the things that we can't, we like to pretend that we can. And if 2021 taught me anything, it's that I have control over very, very little in my life. I have control of like 0.5% of everything that can happen. And while I do like to have control of those things, I also like to embrace that which I cannot control. And that was one of the biggest lessons I learned in 2021. And I think for a lot of us, that was the case. That's why we perceive 2021 and 2020 and sort of those years as years that are so challenging and so negative, is because we didn't have a lot of control. We didn't have there was points where we couldn't even leave our house. We couldn't, do what we wanted to do. We had no say in whether we worked or we didn't. We had no say in whether we went to school or we didn't. We were just told, this is how it is. Go with the flow. And I know for me, and a lot of people, that was very stress and anxiety inducing, because we're so used to having control over what we do with our lives that when we were told that we had no control over it, we started to spiral. And so 2021 kind of taught me that it's okay to, sort of go off the path and have your plans not work out as you had planned, and to just embrace the fact that we have no control over this virus or this pandemic, or whether things open or whether things close, or how, for the most part, how the government handles it, or how individual businesses handle it. We have no control over any of that. So the things that we do have control over is our own actions and our own behaviors, and our own growth, and how we choose to embrace that throughout this wild time that we call life, right? That we call 2021, and I'm going to say /2022, because I don't think that it's going away anytime soon. And I'm okay with that. I realize that I can't control that is something that is beyond, my means. So that was one of the important things I also learned in 2021, is that control is overrated. We control nearly nothing. And we have to accept the fact that we have control over very, very little in our life. So let's embrace the lack of control, and let's move forward and figure out how to embrace this unsurety, and to take advantage of the time that we are given, away from our schedules and the demands of a busy life that we've all been bestowed upon us, right? And one of the main things that I think factor into this idea of lack of control is acceptance, and just accepting that things don't always go as planned, and that's okay, right? So that was the fourth thing I learned in 2021, is that I have control over very little, and that's okay. The fifth thing, so we're halfway through at this point, but the fifth thing that I learned in 2021 is to avoid the regrets of the dying. So I read a book last year, and it was called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware, and highly recommend it. Very, very good book, very thought-provoking. I was just having a conversation with someone close to me the other day, and I said, I'm going to buy you this book because I think you'll really get something out of it. But in the book, there are 5 common regrets. They're not all of them by any means, but 5 common ones that individuals who were terminally ill gave as regrets that they had throughout their life. And I'll sort of list them here. One was that they wished they had the courage to live a life truer to themselves, and not the life what others expected of them. So to live in accordance with what they wanted, and not with what others expected of them, whether that be their parents, their family members, their friends, whatever. It's just to live a life true of themselves. The second sort of regret was, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. So I think for a lot of us, we get lost in our work, and we use our work as an excuse to sort of grind through whatever's going on in our life. We sort of get lost in our work, and there is this motivation to make it big, and to work as hard as you can now so you can enjoy life later. And to a degree, yeah, I agree with that. I think that working hard is important, but I also think the enjoyability of your life is more important. And this is one of the regrets of the dying, was that they had worked so hard, but now they were at the point where they're supposed to be enjoying their life. And we really don't have any knowledge of how long our life's going to last, right? So I think it's important to make sure we're enjoying our lives every moment of every day. The third regret was I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings more. A lot of the time people don't share their true feelings, their true emotions, and this is one of the regrets that these individuals discussed in the book. And the fourth was that I wish I didn't stay in touch with my friends. So I know this kind of goes in hand with the working component, that we're so busy grinding and hustling that we lose sort of focus of those things that are really important to us. And the last regret was I wish I had let myself be happier. And that sort of ties in with that too. These are not mutually exclusive things. They all kind of join together. But reading that book in 2021, sort of put me in the mindset that, the pandemic's not necessarily a horrible thing because it allowed, it gave us less time to work. A lot of us weren't going to work. So a lot of us were going to work and we're working harder, and I understand that. And there was a lot of us that were at home and had the opportunity to connect more with our friends and family, and had the opportunity to connect more with the things that made us happy, and to enjoy learning about ourselves and connecting with those around us. So that's one of the reasons why I think the pandemic wasn't all purely bad. I don't think anything's purely bad. I think there was good and bad to both good and bad to it. But that was the fifth thing, and this book was super important for me during 2021, and reminding me of sort of what the point of life was, and how to avoid those regrets that this author laid out in the book. And 2021 and I think 2022 they're going to be very similar in making sure that we're not working ourselves to the bone, and that we're acknowledging these important aspects of our lives, such as relationships, and happiness and love and those things too, right? So that was the fifth thing I learned. There's 5 more things that I learned, but we are going to take a quick break, and then we'll get to the rest of the 5 when we come back. I'm Ashlee Quinn-Hogan. You're listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back with the next 5 things.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking Radio Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking Radio Show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Money is complicated, right? Actually, no, it's not. You don't have to be a trader on Wall Street to get a handle on your money. TV shows often instill fear to keep you believing you can't understand it or do anything yourself. If dealing with your finances brings up a lot of other F words, then you need to read All Ladies Should Use the F Word, A Guide to Loving Your Finances by Kathy Cook-Noble. Kathy helps you take control of your finances and leave the other F word, fear, in the dust.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Before we went to break, we were chatting about the 10 things that I learned in 2021, and we went through and discussed the first 5. Now we're going to touch on the next 5, and I guess we'll jump right into it. So the 6th thing that I learned was to do more of what you like and less of what you don't. And this is a fun one for me, and I think it's one that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, because there's tons of stuff in life that we do that we don't necessarily love doing, those sort of those little tasks of everyday life that are essential, but they don't really light us up, running errands and phone calls and chores and things like that. And of course we have to do those, that's not really what I'm talking about here. Those are things that are part of everyday life that you can enjoy if you put your mind to it, but that are not just intrinsically enjoyable to a lot of us. But in terms of doing more of what you like, is identifying what it is that really lights you up inside. And again, I think that the pandemic has been an awesome tool for us to sort of figure out what it is that we do love to do. And I know for me, for example, through the pandemic, I got in touch with a lot of things that I hadn't done in a while that I forgot were things that I enjoyed doing. Hiking was one of them. It was something that I never had a lot of time to do before everything closed down. And as soon as, gyms were closed and recreational activities stopped, that was something I started doing again. And I realized, why did I ever stop doing this in the first place? Because I really love it. And I think it was just getting caught up again in the hustle and bustle and the demands of everyday life, that we sort of forgot about, or I forgot anyway, about some of these aspects of life that I love so much and that were really meaningful to me. And so, that's something that I vowed to do more of. And I did a lot of it last year, and I plan on doing a lot of it this year. And as opposed to like doing less of the things that you don't like. And I don't mean that you're not supposed to do any of the things that you have to do. I know we just talked about I get to versus I have to do it. So I guess I should rephrase that, and not doing those little chores that you get to do, but being more in tune with what it is that you love and carving out time to make sure that you are doing the things that you love, in correspondence with the things that are simply just chores or responsibilities and requirements. But also, if there's things that, maybe you just really don't like, going to a certain social event with your family. Maybe that's just not your jam, and you want to do less of it, and that's okay. Like, you're allowed to voice the fact that you don't want to engage in that activity. And I think it's about being aware and then being confident enough to say, hey, you know what? I actually rather spend my time doing, X, Y, or Z. And that's okay, right? Like, life is short, and you should be able to do the things that you love to do and not be super worried about doing the things that you don't love doing. So that was one thing I learned in 2021, is that I have no obligation to do these tasks that I don't love doing, and I have every responsibility to myself to do the tasks that I do love doing. And that's something I'm taking forward with me into the new year as well. The seventh thing that I learned in 2021 is to step outside your comfort zone. And this is a tough one for a lot of people. It was tough for me. It still is tough for me. But I push myself every day to try and do it. Is to embrace the fact that we are transitional beings, and that our lives are not one linear sort of pathway. Is that change happens and things happen, and it's up to us to sort of move and go with the flow, and to sort of step outside our comfort zone when we're given the opportunity to. And there's no better time than during a pandemic to step outside your comfort zone and challenge yourself, and to challenge, what you know to be true of you. and try new things. What better time now when there's quote unquote nothing to do because everything's locked down than to, take up a new hobby. Maybe you start playing an instrument, maybe you try learning a new language, maybe you start building model airplanes, whatever, suits your fancy. Try something new. Step outside your comfort zone, do something that you've never done before, and you will grow so much because of it. I know that's something that I did last year, and that I'm pushing myself to do even more this year is to learn new things. One of my goals this year is to learn a new instrument, because it's something that I've always wanted to learn how to do. And what better time than now when, we're stuck at home and, we've just been given the grace of a new year. So what better time than now, right? Step outside your comfort zone, learn something new, embrace it. I always say that on the edge of our comfort zone, is where all of our greatest desires lie, right? When we're in our comfort zone, yeah, things are easy, but, you're never going to experience any change because, you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And I mean, if that's the way that you want to live your life, then that's your prerogative and there's no judgment. That's awesome for you. But I know for myself, I want to continually be pushing myself to be better and better and better. And the only way to do that is to push myself outside my comfort zone. Because inside your comfort zone, you just stay the same. It's outside your comfort zone where you experience growth and all those great things that make life worth living. So I know for myself, I've been pushing myself, and in 2021, that was one of the most important things I learned, is that getting outside your comfort zone is truly an amazing thing. And, it can help you a lot as a person to grow. And it can help the people around you too, because if you're growing and you're becoming better, the people around you are seeing that. They're noticing, hey, Ashlee's really, changing, and she's doing this and she's doing that. And, she's kind of inspiring me to, get outside my comfort zone and try something new as well. And it's sort of a ripple effect from there. So that was the seventh thing that I learned in 2021 that was pivotal and super important to me. The eighth thing was to develop a great network. And this one is super, super important. I mean, these aren't in any specific order. I keep saying that everyone's the most important, but they all are super important. But the eighth one, yeah, building a great network, so important, especially in a time when we were not able to see people face to face. I know it's hard to do, to build relationships when you're not supposed to be seeing anyone, but I think now is a good time to prepare yourself and to build those relationships, in case we see, another form of lockdown or another period of unsurety, is to lean into those relationships that you have with people, whether that's your family or your friends or your colleagues or your coworkers, your neighbors, whoever those people are. Maybe they're mentors, maybe you're a mentor, maybe they're your mentee. Whatever those relationships are, lean into them and build networks with people. Surround yourself with people that build you up and that you can also build up, that, surround yourself with people that are also on a personal growth journey, if that's the journey you're on. People that give you energy. I'm always of the mindset that there's kind of two types of people out there. There's the people, the batteries, the people that give you energy, and the black holes, the people that take your energy, to put it bluntly. And, who do you want to be surrounded by? Do you want to be surrounded by a group of people that give you energy and encourage you to be the person you want to be and to do the things you want to do? Or do you want to be surrounded by a network of people that, sort of cower at your accomplishments, and they don't really encourage you to be the best version of yourself? They don't encourage you to do the things that you want to do. They don't push you outside their comfort zone. And whatever your choice is up to you. There's no judgment behind them, but, what kind of network do you want to have? And how can you get the network you want to have? Do you need a new mentor? You need to go out and find someone to mentor you, and maybe it's you want to learn, maybe you want to learn a new language, and maybe you need a mentor, someone who has learned a new language or someone who speaks that language to help you. Or maybe you want to start a new business and you need a mentor, someone who owns their own business and runs a successful business. How are you going to find those people? Maybe you have a friend group that isn't super supportive and that you're not super tied to. How are you going to find new friends to people that, how are you going to make new friendships with people that, are in line with your desires, right? So building a network is super important. And that's something I learned in 2021, is that the people you surround yourself with are going to influence who you are. And I know it's been said before that, you're the most like the 5 people that you spend the most time with is who you are. If you're surround yourself with 5 super physically fit people, you'll be the 6th, right? If you surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. And I'm a firm believer in that, is that you're kind of a combination of the people you spend the most time with. So who are you spending your time with, right? Do you want to be like them? If yes, then great. If no, then maybe you got to ask yourself how to build a better network. So that was the 8th thing I learned. There are a couple more things I learned. They will be the last, but not the least. We'll get to them shortly, but we are going to take a quick break. I'm Ashlee Quinn-Hogan. You're listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. Before we went to break, we'd gotten through 8 of the things that I learned in 2021. I do have 2 more things to share with you. Like I said, these are not in order of any significance. They're all super important. There just happens to be 10 of them. And so we're going to just jump right in and get to the last 2. The 9th thing that I learned in 2021 that is super important to me is to laugh more. I love laughing. Laughing is one of my favorite things in the entire world. And I love to make people laugh. I love to laugh. And I think in a world, like the one that we live in, I think laughter is super important. And especially in a hard year where things are uncertain and we're facing adversity and we're facing, difficult situations, I think that laughter is like the antidote to all of it. And so one of the things I learned in 2021 is to make yourself laugh as much as possible. Find things to laugh at. Not in a malicious, evil way, but laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously. Nothing's, days are not going to be perfect, right? You're never going to have a perfect day. If you have, then kudos to you. I certainly have not in my 23 years of life. I've not yet had a perfect day. But I find that laughter makes, sort of some of the trouble that I experience and that a lot of us experience in the daily sort of challenges of life, it makes it more enjoyable. So I don't know, maybe you are driving to work and you run a yellow light or something and you get pulled over, and you're really ticked off about it, and you get a ticket and all of that, and you're late to work, and you spill your coffee going in the front doors of the office after you're already an hour and a half late from being pulled over. And maybe it wouldn't take that long, but we're going to exaggerate and say it was an hour and a half late. But yeah, I think that, you can either be really ticked off about, the events that transpired, which, fair, that those are annoying things that have happened, and, annoying things happen to us every day, or you can find something to laugh at, right? Laugh at the fact that, man, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I ran the yellow light, and then I tripped coming into work and spilled my coffee all down my shirt. Like what a dork, right? don't take yourself too seriously. Laugh at yourself. There's humor in everything. And I'm really good at finding the humor in everything. And I hope that, you guys can be good at that as well, going into 2022. Because it really, lightens up life a lot. And, one of the things with my friends that we always discuss is how to make every day just as funny as possible, and to find things to laugh at, because it is super important for your mental health. And it's really good for those people around you too. If you're laughing, then usually they're laughing too. And you can change not only the sort of trajectory of your day, but you can also change, the people around you's day as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And the 10th, so the final thing that I learned, it's not the only thing I learned in 2021, but it's the summary of the most important things I learned in 2021, is just to be kind to yourself and to others, right? We're living in a tough time. And I just, it's going to get, to be blunt, it's going to just keep getting tougher and tougher as the years go on. But it doesn't have to be, something that's unenjoyable and miserable and hard. Life is fun if you allow it to be. Life's enjoyable if you find the enjoyment in it. Choose to find love over hate and choose to enjoy your life. And, one of the sort of principles that I live by is to make every moment of every day as enjoyable as possible. And how can I do that? Every morning I set out and I say, how can I make every moment of this day as enjoyable as possible? And what does that look like? Maybe for you, it's taking a walk in nature in the morning. Maybe that's something that really lights you up inside. Or maybe it's you really like Starbucks coffee, so maybe it's grabbing a Starbucks coffee in the afternoon to sort of, boost your mood that day. It's sort of recognizing, what's meaningful to you and what is going to make your day as good as possible. Because that's all we can do right now is take things one day at a time. We can set goals for the future and we can look to the future. But at the end of the day, I think we got to take it one day at a time and figure out how to make each day its own sort of masterpiece in terms of, our enjoyment of life. And that's, one thing that I learned in 2021 is that, I can have as many plans for the future as I want, but there's always things that are the pandemic, right? It's gonna shuffle our plans a bit and throw us for a loop, and that's okay. We take it one day at a time. Be kind to ourselves, be kind to those around you, because other people are going through, a similar situation. A lot of people are going through the pandemic as well, but everyone's different too, right? Everyone's going through different stuff. So if we're just kind to ourselves and kind to those around us, then I think that, we're doing a pretty good job of staying on top of this sort of Corona situation and getting through it. So like I said, 2021 was tough for a lot of people. 2020 was tough. I have a small inclination that 2022 is going to be tough again. So, are we going to treat it as a continuation of the past 2 years, or are we going to treat it as an opportunity to move and grow together, to work on ourselves, to work on our futures? And that's up to us. So those were the 10 things I learned. To give a brief summary, number 1 was your well-being comes first. Number 2 was to be grateful, maybe keep a gratitude journal. 3 was the mindset of I get to versus I have to. The 4th thing was stop trying to control everything, give up your control. The 6 things was to avoid the regrets of the dying. I mentioned a good book in there, the 5 Regrets of the Dying. So if you want to check that out, by all means, I recommend it. The 6th thing was to do more of what you like and less of what you don't like. The 7th thing was to step outside your comfort zone more often. The 8th thing was to develop a great network. 9th was to laugh more. And 10th was just to be kind to yourself. So those are the 10 things that I learned in 2021. I'm going to be carrying those with me into 2022, and I hope you will as well. From the bottom of my heart, I hope everybody has a fantastic 2022. You'll be seeing more of me this year as well. Thanks all for tuning in. It'd be great to speak with you, and I hope everyone has a fantastic afternoon and a fantastic year.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Financially Speaking Radio Show. Kathy Cook-Noble will return next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by making the choices that bring you all that you desire.